Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and in this video I will talk about PHP CRUD. So CRUD extends for create, read, update and delete. Let's say you have a table or database and you want to fetch table data. You can do this. Let's say you want to insert data, you can do this. If you want to update data, you can update it. If you want to delete, you can delete it through PHP. So in this video we will show you everything. Here you can see I have a diagram here. In our video we actually create 4 pages or 4 file PHP file. Those are insert.php, fetch.php, update and delete.php. Here you can see fetch.php. This page actually we will show or we will display the table data. So this is the fetch.php. Now let's go for insert.php. Here you can see insert.php. In insert.php we will show a text field, two text field. One is for the name, another one is for the email, and then we will add a button, submit button or add button, so that if someone click on add, it will redirect to the same page insert.php and we will do query, and if our query is successful then we will redirect to the fetch.php, and here it will come fetch.php, and here we can see that okay, the new information is added. So next is update.php. Let's say we want to update something. So here you can see we will bring id with URL. So don't worry, I will let you know everything in coding, but here we will bring id because let's say if you want to update number 1, so how you can actually update. For example, let's say we have a table and that is student table, and we have 2 students as same name Yamin. So how actually you can call someone that okay, you want to actually call that Yamin. So that time actually we need unique something, right? And that is id. So we will when we want to update something, we'll bring id with it, and then we'll show name, email, and then if anyone want to change, he can change, and after that we'll click on update button, and then it will redirect to the update.php page. We will do query for the update, and then if our update is successful, our query is successful, then we will redirect to the fetch.php page, and that is this page. So here we can see that okay, we update let's say number 3, so we can see here. And then finally is delete.php. So if let's say we want to delete something, so we will bring the id with the URL, and here we will do query for the deletion, and if our query is successful, we will redirect to the fetch.php, this page, and here we can see that okay, number 3 was there, but now there is no number 3 information. Okay, so these are the diagram. Now let's go for the code. Here you can see I'm in Linux, that's why actually XAMPP is look like this. But if you are in Windows, so you just have to start your Apache server and MySQL server, and you can see my server, both server is running, right? And after that we just have to create all those pages, right? Here you can see fetch.insert.php, delete.php and update.php, and we just create one more extra file, that is connection.php. Let's say here if I show you, here you can see we have some code, we have write some code here for the connection. So let's say for the all page you have to write all these 11 line of code. We shouldn't do this, right? And that's why we have set a PHP file, that is connection.php. Every time actually we want to access this, we just have to say here include, then the file name connection.php, and here all the other file insert.php, fetch.php and delete.php. and here fetch.php, you can see I have write some HTML tag here, and I have done some style for it. If I go to the localhost / our project name, that is PHP CRUD, and here you can see we have a different file here. If I click on fetch.php, you can see we have a table here. So in this table we will show data from the database. Now let's say you want to create a database, so you just have to go to the localhost / phpMyAdmin. So this is the server, database server. Now you want to create database, you just have to click on new, and then you can create a database. So I assume that you can create a database. So to reduce the video length, actually I have created a database here, and that is PHP CRUD. So here I have a table that is called student, and here I have 3 column, id, student name and email. And if I show you the structure, you can see id is auto increment and it is primary key, and student name is nullable and email is also nullable. Why id is primary? Because let's say we have 2 students as same name, so that time, so that we can identify the actual student we are looking for, that's why we actually set id name as unique, and we set this id as auto increment because we don't want to put the ID name. Let's say we just want to auto increment every single time we add someone, it will be auto incremented. So here you can see in our student table we have only one data. I have added it to fetch the data actually. So here ID is 1, student name is Yamin, and student email is yamin@gmail.com. So now let's say we want to show this, we want to display this. So now we will start CRUD operation. So first of all, we'll go to the fetch.php. If you want to write PHP, you just have to access it using PHP script, right? So here we have to write like this, PHP question mark, then angular sign. So let's say we want to start connection at first. So we will add this connection.php in our page so that we don't need to write every single line here. So we will say here include double quotation, and inside it we will mention the page name, and that is connection.php. So if I go to the connection.php, you can see I have set some variable here, that is $server, $user, $pass, and $db name. So server is our localhost server, so we have set here localhost, and for the PHP myadmin, user is by default root and password is null. You cannot use here space, otherwise it will not work. You have to keep it null, okay? And then our db name is PHP CRUD, as I mentioned here. You can see PHP CRUD. So we have accessed this like this. Now we have set a variable that is con, and we create a new connection, new mysqli, and we pass all the variable as parameter. First server, then username, then password, then database name. Now our connection is actually done, and I set here if condition, that if our connection is not done, if something happened unusual, that time actually we want to echo the error. So we have set it, and we have echo the error here, okay, and otherwise it will continue. So here we have just include this connection.php. Now our connection is done. Now we will do query, that is select query, because we want to display item or display values, right? So we'll say here $query, and it's a random variable. You can set here SQL or whatever you want actually. So I will say here, let's say SQL. So I will say here double quotation, and inside it I will say select star. I actually want all the information. So from where? So from table, that is student. And if I go here, you can see we have a table here, student, and now we just have to close it, okay? Now actually we want to execute the query. So we will say here our result is equal to mysqli query. So this is the function actually we want to use for the query. So here we will pass two parameters, that is connection and SQL, our query. So where is connection? I have get from this connection page, we have set a variable connection for the new connection. So I have passed the connection here and our query. Now actually our query is executed, and our query result will be set here in result variable. Now we want to fetch the data. So we will say if our result is executed, let's say $result. So if our result is executed, now we will do other code. So now we will go here in the HTML, and here we will add all of them. Let's say in the ID we have set random variables, random values. So we will delete it now, and here we will say we'll set the ID, right, student name, and then student email. So we'll access here, we'll show here we have actually get the value from here. We just have to mention here a variable, that is row. So here we have a function that is mysqli fetch, then assoc. So this function is actually work for the associative array. Here you can see fetch means we want to fetch the data, and assoc means associative array. So the result will be shown as associative array inside this row. So here our result will be fetch as associative array. So here we have to just pass the result, our query result, and that's it. Now we can actually echo the row, but here you can see we have only one value. Let's say we have 100 value. That time actually we need a loop, because we want to show every single value. So we have to run it until actually all the value actually fetched, okay? So here we have to run a while loop, and that is like this. We have a while here, so we will set this condition inside the condition. Now actually we can access the value. So let's say I want to access row, and now I have to give the index name, and that is for the id we have id, right? And for the student name we have st name. So we'll say here $row st name, and like this we will access all the column. Actually we can show like this, but actually we don't want to show it here, we want to show it inside our table. So we have to close it here, and like this. Let's say we want to remove this, and we want to remove this also, and this also. And why? Let me show you. Let's say I don't want to close it here, I want to close it in the table, inside the table. So I have removed while closing part and if closing part. Now we will access other part inside the table. So we know that in PHP, if you want to do PHP code, or if you want to write PHP code, you have to write it inside PHP syntax. So we have to write here syntax, and here we will go to the table section. Here you can see. So now we will say here question mark PHP question mark Angular site. Now we can write code here. Okay, so we have our row variable here, you can see row, and now we will execute this row from here, and we'll say $row and then id. We just need to copy. Okay, I have made some mistake here, I don't need to change here, I will keep it as id. Let's say I want to change here, right? So here, and then let's just paste here, and it will be our student name. So st name is the column name. Here you can see st name and st email. So the next column is st email. Now actually what I did here, actually I fetch all the column name here. So all the columns value will be fetched here. Our while loop actually running because we didn't close while loop, right? Okay, now actually it will fetch all the data, and now after that okay, now we have to close it inside the table. Let's say here we'll say we'll write another PHP syntax because we want to do PHP code here, and we will say let's say I want to close while loop here. So here actually I want to close it, and then I want to copy it. I will go here, and we will want to actually close the PHP, I mean if condition here, right? So we have set here one more curly braces for the if. Now everything is done. Now if I go to the browser, and if I refresh here, localhost currently unavailable to handle this request. Okay, why? I don't need actually this curly braces here, I think, because there is no double quotation, right? Okay, now I hope it will work. And if I refresh, now you can see we have id, student name and student email, but there is no data actually showing here. So why this is happening? Let me just find out it. I think we should echo here, right? Because if I refresh here, you can see there is nothing. It means our query is executed, but here is nothing shown. I mean, here we cannot see anything, right? Because we didn't echo, maybe that's why. So I just have to write here echo. Let's say I want to set here echo. We have a double quotation here, and for the name also. Okay, we will use here double quotation, and we will do here 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 curly braces. Oops, I just need to close it right like this, because if you echo something, let's say in the double quotation, so that time actually if you want to access the column, actually I mean the variable, that time you have to use curly braces. So we have used curly braces for every single column. Now I hope it will work. If I go and refresh, okay, now it's worked. you can see we have ID here, student name and everything. All right, so this is the code actually. So let me explain you once more. Here I have just include the connection. So we got the connection. Now the query, and we set the query, MySQL query in a result variable, and we say we set here a condition that okay, if our result is executed perfectly, then go for the next one, and that is while loop, because we want to fetch all the data as associative array. So we have mentioned here a function mysqli fetch assoc, and here we pass the result, our query result actually, and then here we get the value as associative array, and we set the value inside a a variable that is called $row, and we haven't closed the while loop here because we want to show all the information in our HTML file or HTML part. So I have echo them in the TD, table column, and then when I complete the row, a single row, and our loop will be counting every single time, and then I have closed my while loop first, and this curly braces here you can see, and then I have closed the if condition. So now if I go to the browser, if I refresh, now it will work. You can see we have fetched the data from the MySQL table. Here you can see from the student table we have fetched the data. Now our part is add student. Here you can see we have a two button here. One is action update and another action is delete. So we will do all of them, and at first let's say we want to show the insert operation. So here you can see we have add student button. So we'll go here, and here you can see we have add student button, and that is okay, we didn't give any reference here, so we will give reference here. Let's say it will go to the insert.php. So I will say here insert.php. Okay, now we will do insert query, insertion. Let's say we want to insert data in our database. So here I have created an anchor link, and here you can see when I hover on this anchor link, you can see in the top, bottom left corner, here you can see localhost /php CRUD /insert.php. So when I click on this add student link, it will took me to the this insert.php file. So if I click on add student, here you can see we are in now insert.php. So here let's say I want to add Tanvir, and I want to set email tanvir@gmail.com, tanvir@gmail.com, and if I click on add, nothing happened because we didn't do anything. So we'll go to the insert.php. Let me just go here, fetch.php, and here at the end of the file, let's say I want to close the connection. So I will say here $con, and I want to use a function that is close. So I have closed the connection here. Nice. Now let's say I want to go to the insert.php page. So here I will add also a connection. So I want to access this in the insert.php. As you know that if you want to access it, you just have to write it inside PHP syntax. So here we just have to say include and then double quotation file name, that is connection.php. Now actually we are connected to the database. Now we will do query for the insertion. So for insert query, we just have to set here a variable that is, let's say, SQL. So here I will set the query, and the query for the insertion is insert into table name, and that is student, and we just have to mention here table's column name. So our first column is ID. Actually we don't need to insert ID, right, because our ID is auto increment. Here you can see our ID is auto increment. If I go to the structure, you can see our ID is auto increment, so we don't need to add the ID, right? We just have to add the name and the email. So we will work for it. Now we will say that okay, we don't need any ID. We will say insert into student name, and then we want to add email only. Okay, so but our column name is st name and st email, right? So we have to change it like st name and st email. And now we want to set values, so we will say values, and our values are, let's say when we submit it, I mean when I click here this add button, that time actually we will redirect to this insert.php as I mentioned in the diagram. So we will say that okay, action is insert.php, right? So it will come here and we will set here, let's say if is set dollar underscore post, because our method is post. Here you can see our method is post. So if is set post, then our submit button name is submit. Here you can see submit name is submit. So we want to access the value here, so I have set here a function that is set that submit. Okay, if our submit button is set, I mean clicked, then we will enter here, right? So I will set SQL here. Let me just cut it here and paste it inside it, and we will set values. If we click on here add, then actually it will redirect to this insert.php and it will redirect using this, I mean with these values, right? So we have to capture them or we have to catch them. So we need some variables here. Let's say for the name I will say here name, and then the super global variable post, and here I will say our variable, I mean our field name is name, our text field name is name, and our email field name is email. So let me just copy it once more, and I will select a variable here, and that is email. I mean I will create a variable here that is email, and then here we know our email field name is email. So now actually I store two value, one is for the name and one is for the email. Now actually we can pass the values here. So we'll say dollar name and then comma dollar email. Now actually this value will add into the student table, these two column, student name and student email. So our query is done. Now we have to execute our query. So we just have to mention a dollar variable here, that is result, and inside the result we will execute the query. So now we have to mention here a function that is mysqli query function. So query query. So here we will pass two parameter, as we know, one is connection $con and another one is $sql. Okay, so everything is done. Now our query is executed. Now we will give here a condition. If our query is executed successfully, we will redirect to the fetch.php according to our diagram. Okay, I have shown you in our diagram that if our query executes successfully, we will redirect to the fetch.php so that we can see, okay, our value is, I mean our data is inserted in the database. We'll say here header header, and here we will say location, and our location is fetch.php. We will directly go to the fetch.php, and that is done. Now let's see if it is work or not. So I will say here Tanvir, and the email is tanvir@gmail.com. If I click on add insert.php, okay, I have made mistake here, name by giving, okay, insert, I have to put here n also. Now our URL is correct. So if I go back here, refresh here, tanvir@gmail.com, and if I click on add, page is not working. Why? OMG, actually I got my error here. I don't need to give here quotation. I just have to mention the table column name. So my table column name is st name, I mean student name and student email, and that's it. Now let's see what happened here. If I go back, go for add student. Let's say I want to add yamin@gmail.com, add. Okay, now you can see we have add yamin, but the problem is actually our table row, okay, a table column is actually repeating, right? And our student, add student, here you can see it's also repeating. So we have to solve it. We have to go to the fetch.php. We have to cut it from here. We have to cut this while loop from here, okay, and then we just have to go to the tr Okay, and this tier actually we just have to say here PHP. I mean, we just have to use the syntax, right? And inside this syntax we will write this code, that is while loop. Now it will work perfect, I hope. If I refresh now, you can see the result. So now our insertion and fetch, I mean our create and read is done. Now update and delete is left. So let's do it, update and delete. So let's say if I click on update, and now it will took me to the update.php page. Here update.php. So I will set here fetch, and here I will say, if I click on update, it will took me to update.php, and if I click on delete, it will took me to delete.php. So when I click on update, it will took me to the update.php, and here you can see we have id field, we have name, we have email. So let's say I want to change. Okay, I will go to the first page. Here let's say I want to change the second value, I mean second id name. Here you can see we have Yamin and we have same email. So let's say I want to change this Yamin to Wasi, and the email is wasi@gmail.com. So here the ID is 2. So when we click on update, it will took me to this update.php, and then we will update our student information, right? Let's say I want to update this second ID, right? So that time actually when we click on update, we will pass this ID with this, I mean with the URL. Okay, when I click on update, then here we should see the ID. So to do this, we have to just go to the code editor here, and here in the fetch we will go to the button here, I mean the link. Here you can see anchor tag href update. So here we just have to say here question mark, I will say here ID is equal to, and inside it we just have to mention the row, and here we just have to cut it from here, and we just have to paste it here. So as it is inside echo, we have to use it, I mean parenthesis, sorry, curly braces, right? If I go back, if I refresh, now here you can see if I hover in the bottom left corner, you can see ID is 2, and when I hover on ID is 3, right? When I hover on third column, I mean third row, you can see ID is 3. When I hover on first row, you can see ID is 1. So let's say I want to update this second row, I mean ID 2. So in the update, you can see I have declared here ID, and I have declared here dollar underscore get ID. So this ID actually come from this phase.php file. Here you can see when I select on update, actually that time actually we pass an ID. Okay, so this ID is actually here. So I have set here a random variable, that is $id, and then dollar underscore get the ID from here, this ID name. Okay, so we get the ID. Now here you can see in the form field I have shown the ID, I mean I echo the ID, and then now if anyone changes the name and email, and then if I click on update, it will come here, it will check if is set dollar underscore post and button name is submit. So it will check submit button is clicked or not. If clicked, then it will execute this, and here you can see I have include connection.php. So connection actually connection is now done. Now I have received the ID, name and email from the field. So here you can see field, from the field we have ID and name and then email. So I have received them, and now I have set here a query, and that is update student set column name is st name. In our table you can see column name is st name and st email. So I've set here st name, and st name is this name, and email st email is this email. Okay, and I set here where ID equal to this $id. So now we have to execute the query, right? So I take a variable that is result, and here I set MySQL query, and I execute the query. So I have passed two parameter here, one for the connection and one for the query. And then I have shown here if statement, and I said that okay, if result is executed, then I write here a function that is header. So I say here that location should be fetch.php. So actually redirect to the fetch.php. So now you can see if I select this like this, if I click on update, you can see there is no value. If I go for the update, if I say here Tanvir, and let's say Tanvir at the gmail.com, if I click on update, now you can see the value is updated. So our update query is done. Now let's go for delete. So here we also, so as you can see, when I hover in the bottom left corner, we can see which ID actually I'm hovering. So we will do this as same for the delete, right? So let's do this. So we'll go to the update here. I mean fetch, and here we'll do this as same as the update. So here let me just copy it, and here we will paste it. That's it. Now if I refresh, you can see when I hover on delete, you can see in the top bottom, I mean bottom left corner, you can see when I hover on the ID, it can show the ID. Here you can see I am hovering this 3 ID, so it's showing ID 3. So now we will execute the query. So let's say if I click on this delete, so it will go to the delete.php, and here I will write PHP script that is like PHP question mark angular site, and inside it I will get the ID. So I will say here $id is equal to $_get. So get is super global variable, get, then ID is this ID. Okay, so if you change it to ID 2, let's say, so you just have to here say here ID 2. That's it. So let me just change here ID. So now it's done. Now we will do query, but at first we have to create the connection. So I'll say here include connection dot php for the connection, and then now I will set the query. So my query is SQL, let's say, so standard query language, and query is for the deletion. We'll say delete from table name is student, where ID is the column name ID. Here you can see column name, where ID is equal to single quotation, and this $ID, this ID actually we are getting from different page, I mean the previous page. So that's it. Now actually we will execute the query. So we have to say here result, and we have to say here MySQL I query, query query. Here we have to pass two parameter, one is for the connection and another one is our SQL. Now we will set if condition here, that if our result is executable, I mean query is executed, so result, if it is true, then we will say header, and we will say here location fetch.php. That's it. Now go to the browser, now refresh. Here you can see when I hover in the bottom left corner, you can see ID is also changing. So let's say I want to delete number 3. So if I click on delete, now you can see we will redirect to the fetch.php, and our row is deleted, right? Here you can see if I refresh, there is no value, right? Okay, so let me recap you. So when I click on add student, we can add student, new student, right? So let's say Milan at gmail.com. click on add. Here you can see we have added it. So by clicking here, we'll go to the insert.php page, and here we did query, and that is like this. We have set here SQL insert into the table name, and then we have execute the query, and then we redirect to the fetch.php. So let me show you everything works perfectly. Now let's say I want to update it. So I will say here Nusrat at gmail.com. If I click on update, now you can see our data is updated. So this is how you can update and everything. So now if I click on delete, now you can see data is deleted. And that's it. I hope you understand well. I hope you don't need to go anywhere to learn PHP CRUD. I hope now PHP CRUD is crystal clear to you. So thanks for watching this video. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.